The game is over. Novak Djokovic hangs up the phone on the sport of tennis. Look at the checklist. He has won everything. And not only has he won everything, show this, he has won everything more than his most important rivals. This is the big title kings, right? Roger is the king of the little titles, ATP 500s and ATP 250s. He is ahead, far ahead of Rafa and Novak. But in sports, we tend to care more about the big titles. And here they are. You see Novak on the left. He has won everything. He has won all of the big titles. You see a couple of zeros under Rafa and Roger's names because they have not won everything. Not only has Novak now won everything, he has won it more than them. 24 to 22 to 20 in the Grand Slams, the most important. ATP Finals, he had to win 7, so he could just win one more than Roger Federer. Take one more record away from the great man. Happy birthday to Roger today, by the way. Rafa has 0 there. ATP Masters 1000s, 40 to 36 to 28 for Roger. Novak far and away ahead. Olympic titles, 1 for Novak, 1 for Rafa, 0 for Roger. That totals out to 72 for Novak, 59 big titles for Rafa, and 54 big titles for the birthday boy, Roger Federer. Raw fans out there, if you're looking for a tie break, they both got 1 Olympic gold. Here you go. Novak Djokovic, the only tennis player to win the Olympic gold in men's singles without dropping a set throughout the tournament. The only other person to do this would be Serena Williams. There is no more argument. Yet, for some reason, crazy people are still arguing about it. But we'll look at that in a little bit. First, I want to remind you of this. Do you remember when Novak Djokovic was asked this question? I believe it was early this year. Take a listen.
One tournament that you want to win.
I've done it all. Sorry. Very humble.
No one ever said goats were humble, or had to be at least. If you ask that question, it's an interesting question. If you ask Novak, right, earlier, he kind of laughs it off and says, I've won everything. And he basically has. You know, Rafa could say the same. Roger could say the same. You know, but Novak hadn't won the Olympic gold yet. But he could get away with it and say, like, oh, I basically won everything. All right. Well, now he really has. If you ask Rafa that, I don't know. I have a hard time. What would he say? Would he say ATP Finals? But I really regret that I never went the ATP Finals. Keeps me up at night. Nah, I don't think so. I think Rafa cares too much about not winning the ATP Finals. If you ask Roger, he maybe would say he wanted to win the Olympic gold in singles, that he regrets not winning that. But I think more likely he would say he'd rather win one more Wimbledon, particularly in 2019 when he had 2 match points on his serve against the greatest tennis player of all time. Maybe not everyone realized it at that time. Andy Roddick was asked this question, put it on the screen. I would have definitely taken a Wimbledon title instead of that, says Andy Roddick, which it makes sense. He came close so many times. If you ask Andy Murray, what would he want to win of all the tournaments he didn't win in his career? Not too many of those, but some big ones. He would say Australian Open, for sure, right? Because how many times was he in the final? Came so close, so many times, never did it. If you ask Stan, he would say Wimbledon. Then he would have a full set. He has Olympic gold in doubles. And if you ask Andy Roddick, guy lost to Roger Federer multiple times in Wimbledon finals, semifinals. And I'm not surprised that he would rather have a Wimbledon title over an Olympic gold. But if you ask Novak Djokovic, who has many Wimbledon titles, he would say Olympic gold. Well, I guess he would say he's won it all because that's what he did say. But I believe later in that clip, later in that interview, I believe he did allude to wanting to win the Olympic gold, especially because he loves winning for Serbia. Now, let's go to the crazy people because it's going to lead me to an argument that I hate that I want to address briefly in today's show. First, I take you to this Facebook account, Federer Nadal Tennis. This is an anti-Djokovic Facebook account. Novak will never have the streets. He had to wait until Rafa and Roger were injured and old before he could actually achieve anything. So we move on. We dismiss this triumph, this massive moment in Novak Djokovic's career. We move on. And there's plenty of crazy people following. Here's one. Celine says, spot on. Most of Novak's wins. It's very, so cringe, as they say. Most of Novak's wins have been after Roger retired and Rafa has been injured for the last few years. He's a great player, but he had luck on his side. He was just lucky. So let's blow this argument up because it is outrageous. It is ridiculous. First off, take a look at this quote from Novak Djokovic. I believe this is last year, maybe after he beat Alcaraz in the Cinci final. A new generation is rising, says Novak. Alcaraz, Sinner, Rune, and myself. We are all young, all of us. Now, Djokovic was joking, as the Joker is known to do. But he was on to something here because take a look at this Serbian meme I found for you. Now, I'm probably not going to pronounce the words right, but we got to point this out. The Stara Generacija. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing the Serbian wrong. That is the old generation, the big four. Now, we can argue about these generations. You know, I could say the one in the middle here is mentally weaker than the one on the bottom. We could argue about that. We could debate that. But I don't think we can debate that the one on the top is the greatest. It's the greatest of all time. And Djokovic definitely held his own at the very least. If we only isolate those years, let's call it, let's say from Rafa winning, so like 2005 to 2011. You know, I think Djokovic only wins one major in that whole time period, but he was able to prove that he belonged with those guys and was on his way to getting better and better and beating them more and more. And it's hard to say because, you know, Medvedev, Tsitsipas in 2011, so I don't even know where to put these years at. They say in tennis the generations are every 5 years. But let's go to 2016. Let's go to 2016 because you don't really see Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Zverev until around that time anyways. You know, Novak dominates. If you look at that period, that stretch. So Novak was the strongest in that generation. Roger had a head start. Rafa had a head start. They were more majors. But it was looking, by 2016, it was looking like Novak was going to win everything. It was when I started this YouTube channel in 2017, and I hypothesized that Roger's game is everlasting. He has the most perfect offensive game, the most beautiful strokes, and that his lack of injuries was going to make him the one in the end who had the most. That's what I thought, and it looked that way going into 2018 when he won. You know, he won a few majors in a year span, and Novak was hurt, but all that changed, and Novak kept going. And then we move on to this next generation of players. You're definitely, I mean, you know, he's a BS Russian is 2018. So that's when we start seeing, in 2018, Zverev, I think, loses in the finals of Miami, and Miami is the tournament where Medvedev and Tsitsipas get in a little fight. So let's go to that time period. Let's zoom into 2017, 2018, and beyond. Djokovic, by far, you know, these guys don't even win majors. Medvedev is the only one. Djokovic wins pretty much all the majors in that time period, and Rafa wins some. The Sledeća Generacija. This is the next generation. So we have old, new, and next generation, I believe, is the proper translation of this Serbian meme that we have in front of you. Anyways, I bring this up to you because when I started this channel and I talked about why I thought Roger would be the greatest, I constantly heard that Roger had so many titles and that, you know, he's losing to Novak. You know, they'd show me records. People would cite records saying like, well, Roger hasn't beat Rafa on in 2 years or something like that. You know, Roger hasn't beat, or at least he hasn't beat him on certain surfaces in a long time. And Roger only has all these wins because he was winning a lot in the early years of his dominance because of a weak era. So we constantly hear it's a weak era. And now it has come full circle. And now I'm hearing that Djokovic is not the greatest because he's benefiting from a weak era, that this is a weak era that we are in right now. As people are saying, Alcaraz might end up being the greatest player of all time if we fast forward, you know, 10, 15 years into the future. Others are claiming that this is a weak era and Novak is only winning because it's so weak. So I present to you this Serbian meme because I think it perfectly illustrates how not only has Novak Djokovic had to be the best in this current era where there are players who he just won an Olympic gold medal over. I mean, look at this guy, Alcaraz. He's freaking almost 20 years younger than Djokovic. And people are talking about how he might end up being one of the greatest of all time, and he gets stuck with this silver chump medal on the podium. Djokovic takes the gold away from him, almost 20 years older than him, rapidly approaching the age of 40. Not only has he had to be the best here, where these guys are much younger than him, he's been the best with this forgotten lost generation. They basically skipped over Dominic Thiem's generation, which comes before that, Nick Kyrgios's generation. And of course, he's right there with those guys. If we isolate those years, by 2016, it looks like he's going to surpass them in their records even back then without the major injury hiccup where Djokovic didn't win for a couple years there. Djokovic has proven not only is he the greatest by the numbers, by winning everything, but he has had to dominate multiple generations. So the weak era argument is exactly that. It is a weak argument. I don't like it against Roger Federer, and I especially don't like it against the man who's proven himself to be the greatest tennis player of all time, as he has dominated multiple generations of the sport. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. Happy to be here with you today. We have all the beverages lined up Rafa Nadal style. We are celebrating the victory with a Warsteiner Brewers Gold Unfiltered Smooth Taste German Spezialitäten Bieren. It is not Beer Hall Freitag, but we are drinking this gold label beer to celebrate the gold medal victory of Novak Djokovic. We're also celebrating Roger Federer's birthday. Take a look. Happy birthday, dear Roger. Happy birthday to you. Right, Mr. Goat, don't eat the cake! Oh, it's a special day indeed. That's right, I tricked you guys. I put Mr. Goat's goat food right there. Happy birthday, Roger Federer. Good to be back here. Didn't get to make my Alcaraz song. You know, I thought after that Wimbledon final that he would win. Leave that right there. Rafa wouldn't like that. We're out of order now. But it's okay. One more thing really quick. Put this on the screen. Remember this guy? What generation is he from? He just beat one of the guys from the mentally weak generation, as you can see below, in straight sets at a Masters 1000 tournament. I mean, I get so upset when I see that stuff about the weak era, especially trying to apply it to Novak Djokovic. The guy has proven that he is the greatest. Take a look at this. I love this. Considering how crazy he is, says Goran Ivanisevic, it wouldn't surprise me to see him, Novak Djokovic, in Los Angeles in 2028 as well. Meanwhile, bad news for the Raw fans. I love that they're playing The Doors, This Is the End. Rafa Nadal, hi all. I'm writing today to let you guys know that I have decided not to compete at this year's U.S. Open, a place where I have amazing memories. I will miss those electric and special night sessions in New York City at Ash, but I don't think I would be able to give my 100% this time. Thanks to all my U.S. fans, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. My next event will be Lever Cup in Berlin. So yeah, Rafa's pretty much telling us that he's going to retire. And I will not be surprised if I get lucky, as I predicted when I picked up a Saturday night ticket. Roger's last match at Lever Cup on a Saturday night with Rafa and doubles. I think Rafa might play his last match and retire the same way Roger did. And hopefully it'll be the Saturday night ticket that I have for Lever Cup in Berlin. Anyways, meanwhile, Goran Ivanisevic, he supposes, he thinks Novak Djokovic might play in the Olympics in 4 years. Rafa can't guarantee that he can play in a month at the U.S. Open. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic, he's telling us, he's confirming, here you go, Novak, I want to play in Los Angeles 2028 for the Olympics. And, you know, he'll be, how old will he? He'll be 41 years old. I mean, Roger, I think Roger, if the knee hadn't been so bad, still could have looked pretty good at 41 years old. I guarantee you, I don't know if he'll be able to still be winning much at 41 years old, but I will not be surprised at all if Novak Djokovic can still play at 41 the way he takes care of his body. We go to Alcaraz. It was nice to see how much it means to Alcaraz. It was a good match. I feel a little bad for him, but I don't feel too bad because, as Djokovic himself said, something along the lines of, thanks for letting me win this one, Alcaraz. You have plenty of time to win not one, but multiple Olympic gold. It is not impossible that we'll see this guy, Alcaraz, break some GOAT records. Who knows? That's why we watch the games. More news for you. I forgot to mention, maybe I did mention, I don't remember. But Djokovic is out of Cincinnati, sadly. We do have Montreal. Jannik Sinner wins today. Tsitsipas is out to Key Nishikaishi. A real interesting moment with Zverev. Well, not too interesting. I mean, he was beating Jordan Thompson pretty bad, like 6-1, 6-1, I think is the score there, something like that. And then at the very last point, match point, Jordan Thompson hits a serve and his hat falls, but he catches. Oh, I'll just play it for you. It's pretty wild. Let's take a look at this one. This is indeed a bizarre end to a match. Oh. Let's start it over, I guess. Gives me a chance to drink this gold medal beer. He's got the hat in hand. Literally has his hat in hand.
Wow.
Where, but you took it.
Thompson's hat fell off. It has to be a let.
If you got the hat, you are not interfering on his shot. So you cannot hinder yourself.
That's
You
not
understand,
hindering
yeah?
myself.
You cannot.
That's not?
You cannot.
He handles it
It's a
well.
shot.
He handles
I've
it
caught my head
well.
after
Yes.
the serve, so I should just
You
throw it on the
cannot hinder
ground.
yourself. So if it comes down, then you hinder him.
I should just let it go on the
Maradona
ground
said you grab it.
So I should literally just let it go, and that's good sportsmanship, is it?
If he's interfering his shot, yes. But in this case, no.
Nah, you're a joke.
That's okay.
These guys are jokes. What a douchebag. Oh my God. Unfortunately, that is game, set, match. I just play that for you because it's kind of a weird one. You know, we don't see things like that too often in tennis, but typically if something falls out of your pocket, like a ball, the extra ball that you have for second serve falls out of your pocket, it's a let and they replay it. And he's saying, well, since you caught the hat, you have your hat in hand, it's still part of you, right? Hat was on the head, now the hat's on the hand. Nothing's going on. You're not hindering yourself. You can't hinder yourself by definition of the rule book, I guess, is what he's arguing there. And unless it hit the ground, it doesn't hinder Zverev on his shot. Zverev was a nice guy about it. Give Zverev some credit there because he said, like, hey, let's replay the point. I'm curious if it's not 6-1, 5-1 up, if it's a tiebreak and he's in danger of losing the match, does he still replay the point there? Maybe not. It'd be interesting to see there. But at least Zverev was smart enough to look like a nice guy in that situation. Anyways, I just put that out there because now we know. Let's file that away in the back of our minds. Next time a let happens, we'll remember how that one was ruled. Anyways, going back to Alcaraz, I really loved when they're interviewing him, how he said, my moment will come. I will bring the gold medal to Spain one day. I'm going to wait for that moment and work for that moment. Right now, I have to enjoy lifting the silver. It's pretty amazing as well. I got to tell you, I don't think it feels that amazing. I wonder how Lorenzo Musetti must have felt. Put him on the screen. Look at, they had to, it's funny because it took a while to get this going. They had to find Lorenzo Musetti and drag him out there so they could get all three medalists on the podium, on the stand, whatever you call it. Anyways, Musetti took a while to find. I'm guessing because he was doing wild, crazy orgies in the Olympic Village. That's probably what Musetti was up to. But they dragged him away from all that and got him up there for Djokovic's great moment. Many people had comments about Djokovic's achievement. And here was a good one from Chris Everett. Novak, his love for the game and his country is unprecedented. The strength of his mind is incomparable. His GOAT status is cemented. So happy for him. And it absolutely is cemented now. So how was the match won? I know it was 4 days ago, but we'll talk about it. We got plenty of time to talk about Cincinnati and Montreal. I leave for Cincinnati tomorrow, so we'll have plenty of time to talk about all that. But let's look into the stats. And it really came down to Djokovic was so determined to win this match. I was a little worried after Wimbledon thinking, how's Djokovic going to be able to beat this guy on clay? You would think that with Carlos, clay would be even... you would think it's a better matchup for Djokovic on grass than on clay against Carlos. Obviously not. Can't, he never loses to him at the French, and he always loses to him when he plays him at Wimbledon, 2 matches each. But I think, more is what Djokovic said going into the final. He said, I'm moving better than I was at Wimbledon, so I'm feeling pretty good about, my chances here. And I think the guy was he was locked in. He was going to do it no matter what. The winners, the unforced errors, 17-34. So double the winners, but the unforced errors, Djokovic was able to keep that down 8 less than Alcaraz. That still doesn't add up if you do the math, right? The differential here is Alcaraz +1 and Djokovic -8. And I wish we had stats for forced errors because that's where Djokovic would really be leading. So many times he was able to get in a situation where he's hitting his forehand really hard into the corner, the backhand corner, inside out, into the backhand corner of Alcaraz and getting, Alcaraz running left and right and eventually delivering that inside out forehand to where Alcaraz just having to stretch a little too much and makes an error, but it is a forced error. If we look at the forced error stats, that's where the difference will be found, I do believe. Of course, he served better, winning more on first serve, winning more on second serve, and getting considerably more first serves into play 8% higher, 74 to 66. Sometimes we say in tennis that winning many more than 60-something% of your first, getting much more than 60-something% of your first serves in, it's kind of a bad thing because you're getting too much in. You're not being aggressive enough. But if you're going to win 78% on your first serve, I think getting 74% in is that's pretty good. The return rating, big difference there. Djokovic proved to be the greatest returner of all time. Every now and then he would get burned. He would take the ball very early and then have some open court. He'd get inside the court, take the ball super early in return, have an open court for Alcaraz to hit into. But most of the time, he's able to take the ball very early and forcefully up the middle of the court, not giving Alcaraz much angle. Djokovic has been doing this for years. It's part of why he's so great. It's other things that he's added more recently, like his serving accuracy, which, only one ace. But how many times did he hit a spot and force an error with his serve? Many points he won with the serve and the location. How many times do we see him go up the tee on both sides, really? Incredible performance from Novak Djokovic. This guy is just the real deal. Wins the most points, 101 to 90. And again, if we do the math on that, a lot of that's going to come from forced errors. Djokovic forcing with his great shots. No, not outright winners, but shots that force Alcaraz to run out of room and eventually miss the ball. A lot of great rallies in that match. It was one of the most exciting matches of the year, I think. And, last year, best three-set match is in Cincinnati. Sadly, we will not see that rematch here. But Alcaraz and Djokovic last year in Cincinnati, best three-set match of the year. I think we have our best three-set match of the year in this Olympic gold match now, too. Anyways, just looking at the return numbers, they're pretty close in second serve. Djokovic winning 48%, returning on second. But that's a pretty big jump, right? First serve, 22 from Alcaraz. Being able to get to 28, a little closer to 30 from Djokovic. That's a difference maker in the match. Of course, no breaks. Djokovic, 0 for 6. Alcaraz, 0 for 8. Djokovic, pretty incredible in that 4-all game. If you look, if you go back, if you didn't see the match, go back to first set 4-all and see how many times Djokovic had to save himself. So now, Djokovic, I believe they went in dead even, 3-3. Alcaraz wins in Madrid, Wimbledon, and Wimbledon again. Those are his 3 victories going into this match. Djokovic, French Open, Cincinnati last year, and the ATP World Tour Finals last year. And this is the tie-breaking match for the Olympic gold. So it'll be interesting to see as Djokovic is playing in this generation where guys are literally about 20 years younger than him. It'll be interesting to see. My question for you, do comment below. Hit the music. We're going to get out of here. Will Novak Djokovic... will he beat Alcaraz ever again in a big match? It's unlikely that they'll play in 4 years in the Olympic gold medal match. Maybe, but I doubt that. But I think it is likely we could see them face off in the U.S. Open final. We could see them facing off at the Aussie. We could very likely see them playing each other at Wimbledon or the French Open next year. All these things are possible. So I want you to comment below because I was wondering this myself. How much was it a benefit for Djokovic that it was best of 3 and he's able to win those 2 sets and get out of there in this match? In a best of 5 set match, does Djokovic really want to try to hang with Alcaraz or Sinner? It's going to be interesting to see. Mr. Goat's prediction, I think, is true. He said that Djokovic had at least one more major win in him. Maybe this one was it, and that's all we're going to get. I'm very curious to see. I wish we could have seen them in Cincinnati, but the U.S. Open in a best of 5 set format, how is Djokovic able to do with Alcaraz? This might be the shot of confidence that he needed after having such a terrible year. And as I said in the beginning of the show, if you went to Djokovic and said, hey, you're going to have a terrible year, but you're going to win the Olympic gold, is that okay with you? He would have said, yeah, that's okay with me. So he's done that. The guy's literally done everything now. How motivated is he going to be? Is he still going to be able to push himself hard enough to beat these guys that are almost 20 years younger than him in best of 5 set Grand Slam matches? We shall see. Be back in Cincinnati very soon with some new videos. And we'll probably not too much on Montreal, but when Cincinnati gets going, we will see you live from Cincinnati. See you.